The legendary Finn disappear into a magical doorway within the rock face here at the Giant's Causeway.
The Atlantic Ocean had always sounded different at the Giant's Causeway. Not simply loud, not simply violent. It breathed there. It roared against the ancient black stones like some enormous living creature trapped beneath the sea, endlessly trying to claw its way onto the shores of Northern Ireland. Along that wild coastline, more than 40,000 interlocking basalt columns stretched across the cliffs and shoreline, like the ruins of a forgotten world, each one shaped into eerie hexagonal patterns forged nearly 60 million years ago when volcanic fire met the freezing ocean. Mist rolled constantly across the rocks. Wind screamed through the cliffs with the sound of distant voices. And for centuries, locals whispered that the causeway was never entirely natural. Old legends claimed giants once walked there. Most people laughed at those stories. Until the door moved. It happened on an autumn afternoon, wrapped in dark clouds and cold rain. The sea was angry that day. Waves hammered against the basalt pillars, hard enough to shake spray nearly 40 feet into the air. Tourists had mostly cleared from the cliffs as the weather worsened, leaving only a handful of stubborn visitors standing against the howling wind. Among them was 34-year-old Kieran Doyle, an electrician from Dublin with no scientific background, no archaeological training, and absolutely no idea he was about to change human history forever. Kieran loved drones. That was all. He traveled the Irish coast filming landscapes whenever he had time away from work. That afternoon, standing near the edge of the cliffs in a rain-soaked jacket, he launched his drone, simply hoping to capture dramatic footage of the storm rolling over the causeway. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The drone swept low over the basalt formations, recording endless geometric columns glistening with rainwater. Then it moved toward a section of cliff that had been surveyed dozens of times over the last century. Solid basalt. Completely unremarkable until the cliff opened. Even now, investigators say the footage remains one of the most disturbing recordings ever authenticated by modern science. The basalt wall did not crack. It did not collapse. A single enormous slab, weighing an estimated 20 tons, and roughly the size of a transit van, swung outward smoothly and silently like a massive vault door. There were no visible hinges, no grinding stone, no falling debris. The movement was mechanical, intentional, impossible. Behind it waited total darkness, a black void hidden inside 60-million-year-old rock. Kieran later described the moment in a trembling television interview. "I thought the drone camera had glitched," he said. "I actually rubbed my eyes because it made no sense. Rocks don't open." The door remained open for exactly 11 seconds. Then it sealed itself shut with terrifying precision. No seam remained, no crack, nothing. Just solid basalt once again, as though the cliff had never moved at all. For 2 days, almost nobody believed him. When Kieran uploaded the footage online, it exploded across social media within hours. Millions watched it. Most dismissed it immediately as CGI. Professional editors claimed it was a digital composite. Skeptics called it an elaborate hoax designed to gain followers. But then came the witnesses. 3 hikers standing nearly half a mile away independently reported seeing part of the cliff swing outward. A local photographer captured distant still images showing the same impossible shadow forming along the rock face. Weather satellites confirmed there had been no landslide or seismic event. And most importantly, experts analyzing the raw drone file found no evidence of manipulation whatsoever. Suddenly, disbelief turned into alarm. Within a week, an official investigation was underway. Under heavy rain and growing international media attention, a specialized research team arrived from Dublin and Belfast, led by geophysicist Dr. Ian Gallagher, a respected expert in subterranean geological structures. Trucks carrying advanced equipment lined the narrow coastal roads. Ground-penetrating radar systems, thermal imaging arrays, sonar scanners, core sampling drills, portable 3D laser mapping rigs. The atmosphere at the Causeway changed overnight. Floodlights illuminated the cliffs after dark. Security barriers appeared. Armed police quietly monitored the area while government officials refused to answer questions from reporters. Helicopters circled overhead through thick gray clouds. Dr. Gallagher initially remained skeptical. "There is always an explanation," he told journalists during the first briefing. "Nature often appears impossible before we understand it." But 2 days later, after the first scans came back, his expression changed completely. Ground-penetrating radar revealed a hollow chamber hidden deep inside the basalt cliff, perfectly symmetrical, roughly 40 feet wide. And inside it stood figures, 7 of them, humanoid in shape, upright, motionless, each over 7 feet tall. The silence inside the mobile command tent after the scans finished became almost unbearable. Technicians stared at the monitor without speaking. The figures appeared arranged in perfect formation, facing directly toward the hidden entrance, as though they had been waiting for the door to open again. One young researcher finally whispered, "Those can't be real," but they were there. Thermal imaging deepened the horror. The figures emitted faint residual heat signatures inconsistent with surrounding rock. Not warm exactly, but different, as if something inside them retained energy after unimaginable lengths of time. "No geological process explains this," Dr. Gallagher admitted quietly during a recorded internal briefing later leaked online. None. The discoveries grew stranger by the hour. Core samples confirmed the surrounding basalt was indeed 60 million years old, yet the chamber inside displayed smooth internal surfaces, unlike natural volcanic formations. There were no known tunnels leading inward, no evidence of excavation, no tool marks matching ancient or modern technology. And then, 4 days into the investigation, something happened that shattered even the most skeptical minds on the team. One of the figures disappeared. The second scan showed only 6. No debris, no disturbance, no collapse. Just an empty space where a 7-foot figure had previously stood. The room inside the command center reportedly erupted into shouting. Some demanded equipment recalibration. Others accused colleagues of manipulating data, but repeated scans confirmed the same horrifying reality. Something inside the chamber was no longer there. News of the missing figure spread despite government attempts to suppress details. Panic mixed with fascination across the world. Television networks broadcast endless debates. Scientists argued publicly. Conspiracy theories multiplied by the hour. Locals around the Causeway reacted differently. Older residents began refusing to approach the cliffs after dark. One elderly fisherman, named Seamus Brennan, gave an interview that investigators later refused to discuss publicly. "My grandfather warned me about that place," he said, while staring toward the ocean. He called them the sleeping giants, said the cliffs weren't dead stone, said something ancient watched from inside them. Few laughed anymore. Behind closed doors, pressure mounted rapidly. The scientific community demanded entry into the chamber. Government officials feared international backlash if access was denied. Religious groups called for the site to remain sealed forever. Dr. Gallagher himself appeared increasingly exhausted during those days. Witnesses described him pacing alone near the cliffs at night, while waves crashed below in darkness. Finally, after nearly 2 weeks of debate, the decision was made. They would force the door open, not explosively, not recklessly. Precision hydraulic systems would be used alongside laser-guided pressure tools designed to avoid damaging the structure. The operation would occur at dawn during low tide. The morning arrived under a sky the color of wet ash. Rain drifted sideways across the cliffs, while floodlights illuminated the target section of basalt. Engineers bolted hydraulic braces into surrounding rock as cameras broadcast live feeds to government offices in Dublin and Belfast. Nobody spoke loudly, even journalists whispered, because deep down, everyone felt it. Something about the cliff felt wrong. As the hydraulic systems engaged, the basalt slab resisted at first with absolute stillness. Pressure gauges climbed higher, metal groaned, wind screamed across the causeway. Then came movement. A low vibration traveled through the stone beneath their feet. The slab shifted outward by less than an inch. Several workers stepped back instinctively. Again the hydraulics pushed. This time the door yielded suddenly and silently, swinging outward with the same unnatural smoothness seen in Kieran's footage. Not like rock, like machinery. Ancient air exploded from the darkness inside. Cold, dry, carrying scents no one expected. Earth, ozone, something metallic, something almost electrical. One technician immediately vomited. Another began praying under his breath. Headlamps pierced the darkness as the entry team stepped forward into the opening. Their boots echoed against smooth black stone. Behind them, the Atlantic thundered endlessly against the cliffs outside. The passage inside was narrow at first. Perfectly carved walls rose on either side without visible tool marks. Strange symbols covered the surfaces, faintly reflective beneath flashlight beams. They resembled no known Celtic writing, no Neolithic carvings, no language ever documented in Ireland. Dr. Gallagher touched one symbol gently with a gloved hand. "It's older," he whispered, "much older." The passage opened into the chamber, and every person who entered stopped walking. The 6 figures stood exactly as the scans predicted, towering, silent, watching. They were humanoid, but not entirely human. Their bodies appeared slender, yet immensely powerful, covered in surfaces resembling polished stone, fused with petrified organic tissue. Intricate carvings spiraled across their torsos and limbs in geometric patterns that seemed almost mathematical. Their elongated faces lacked clear expressions, yet somehow radiated awareness. One researcher later confessed she could not shake the feeling that the figures were looking directly at her. Even stranger were the eyes, dark, glossy, reflective. Under shifting flashlight beams, they seemed to glow faintly from within. No one spoke for nearly a full minute. Then one of the thermal technicians pointed toward the empty space where the missing figure had once stood. The outline remained visible on the chamber floor, still warm. A perfect 7-foot silhouette embedded in ancient dust. "That's impossible," someone muttered. Nearby, investigators discovered mechanisms hidden within the walls. Not gears exactly, not anything recognizable. Smooth channels vanished deep into the basalt where no technology should have existed. The door itself appeared balanced by invisible counterweights or some unknown force still functioning after millions of years. Portable lights revealed objects scattered along the edges of the chamber, crystalline shapes that pulsed faintly beneath heat, metal alloys untouched by corrosion, thin black tablets covered in symbols that shimmered subtly whenever human hands approached them. And there was evidence the chamber had opened before. Tiny abrasions near the threshold, microscopic traces of soot, fragments of organic fibers dating back thousands of years. Someone, or something, had entered this place repeatedly across history. The implications became unbearable. Dr. Gallagher recorded a trembling voice memo recovered weeks later. If these figures predate human civilization, then everything changes, everything. Then came the incident no official report fully explained. As investigators documented the chamber, one team member named Claire Donnelly suddenly froze near the rear wall. Her body temperature dropped dramatically according to suit monitors. She later claimed she heard whispering directly beside her ear despite standing alone. Not words exactly, more like a voice trying to remember language. Claire turned towards the darkness beyond the chamber and saw what she described as a silhouette moving where no silhouette should exist. Seconds later, every light inside the chamber flickered simultaneously. The temperature plunged, and somewhere deep within the stone corridors beyond the room came a sound. A footstep. Heavy, slow, not echoing, approaching. Panic erupted instantly. Several researchers backed toward the exit, while others desperately scanned the darkness ahead. The sound came again, closer this time, then stopped completely. One flashlight beam swept briefly across the nearest standing figure. Its head had moved, only slightly, but enough. Enough for everyone in the chamber to notice. The footage from helmet cameras remains partially classified, though leaked frames spread online for years afterward. You can still find blurry still images showing researchers stumbling backward in terror, while one towering figure appears angled differently than before. Official statements denied movement. Privately, few believed them. The evacuation happened within minutes. Equipment was abandoned. Samples were left behind. As the final team members rushed toward the entrance, Claire reportedly screamed and pointed back into the chamber. Later, she would refuse all interviews. But one investigator claimed she kept repeating the same sentence over and over. It wasn't sleeping. Outside, storm clouds gathered once more over the Atlantic. Waves crashed violently against the Causeway as crews prepared emergency sealing operations. Government vehicles surrounded the site. Helicopters filled the sky. Then, without warning, the basalt door began closing on its own. Hydraulic systems disengaged automatically. Nobody touched the controls. The massive slab swung inward silently while horrified researchers scrambled away from the entrance. For one brief moment before the gap disappeared completely, several witnesses swore they saw movement inside the darkness beyond the chamber. No seam remained, only ancient stone facing the sea once again. In the months that followed, rumors spread faster than facts. Some researchers resigned suddenly and vanished from public view. Classified documents allegedly disappeared from archives. International scientists demanded access to data that governments refused to release. Theories multiplied endlessly. Some believed the figures were remnants of a lost pre-Ice Age civilization older than humanity itself. Others connected them to Irish myths of the Fomorians or the Tuatha De Danann, ancient supernatural beings said to arrive from beyond the sea. More extreme voices claim the chamber proved extraterrestrial contact long before recorded history. No explanation satisfied everyone, especially one question. Why did the door open now? Kieran Doyle still struggles with that thought. In his final public interview, he admitted he sometimes replays the original drone footage late at night searching for details others missed. And recently, he noticed something disturbing. During the final second before the door closes, one frame shows a shadow moving inside the darkness, moving toward the exit. Today, the Giant's Causeway remains open to tourists, but certain cliff sections stay permanently restricted behind steel barriers and silent security patrols. Officials insist there is no danger. No further activity has been detected. Yet local fishermen still report strange lights along the cliffs after midnight. Some visitors claim they hear distant metallic sounds beneath the crashing waves. And every so often, when Atlantic storms roll across the basalt coast and thick mist swallows the ancient stones, people swear the cliffs themselves seem to breathe again, as if something inside them is waiting, watching, remembering, and perhaps, very slowly, waking up.